So I do not know what's going on in the ATP. I just don't have the bandwidth. So, wish them luck.
Hello everybody, welcome back to The Body Serve. I'm Jonathan.
I'm James.
We were going to record on Saturday night, but then I kind of fell asleep on the couch, and then we went to Downton Abbey instead.
Yeah, I said if we're not recording, we're going to do something. We're not dead.
Okay. Well, that's rich coming from you. Movies are basically the only thing you do.
Wow, not exposing me on here.
You famously, I'm sure the listeners know this by this point, you go to movies all the time on Sundays.
Yeah, and it's usually a horror movie because you don't want to see that.
Back when I used to work Sundays, that's what you do. Now I don't work Sundays, and you try to get me to go to movies on Sundays, and I'm just not really about that life. Sunday matinee movies, not for me.
You don't really like going to movies ever.
I really enjoyed Downton Abbey. I think it has to do with the type of movie.
Yes. No tension whatsoever.
No suspense,
the conflict
no thriller,
has to be very low stakes.
No shooting, no violence.
I said, oh, do you want to watch a show? It's gotten good reviews. And you said, thriller series? Absolutely not.
Well, by this point, you should know. The shame on you. That was crazy that you even suggested that. We're going to start this episode with a bit of a, I wouldn't say retraction, maybe a clarification, a follow-up. Eating a little bit of crow.
Okay.
Yeah. We were, and probably me, I was a little bit too glib when discussing the USTA and the US Open on the last episode. Specifically with respect to the Althea Gibson stuff at the end. I think we were just seeing red.
Mm-hmm.
That blob of shit was at the tournament on your birthday. Then we had to record. And there wasn't a whole lot of nuance in our taking down of the USTA.
Now, I take responsibility as well.
Okay, thank you.
But I did try to reel you in a little bit, and you just were not having it at all. USTA is a non-profit organization, right? And the revenues from the US Open go to a ton of stuff around the country. Like, that's what funds the USTA leagues and all these, like, satellite, I forgot what they're called.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that there isn't pork.
Right. And that doesn't mean they're beyond reproach or they can't be criticized. Yeah. I don't want to minimize the work that people are doing just on a community level for people who love to play tennis. And the point was made to us. And by the way, we didn't hear from like the USTA or anything. This isn't, we're not being forced to make a retraction.
Yeah, this was from a listener whose opinion we value dearly.
Yeah. And it was pointed out to us during this period where so many organizations are terrified of doing anything inclusive or open-minded or woke. The USTA continues to lean in. Where
I particularly missed the mark was when I said something to the effect of, I'm sure there's some people on a committee thinking that they're doing something.
Mm-hmm.
When in fact, it's not really anything of the sort. Which, that's the glibness I'm talking about. Because, obviously, in this cultural moment, to feature Althea Gibson as prominently as they did was something. Mm-hmm. It certainly wasn't nothing.
Right. And I mean, you've been on a lot of committees that weren't doing anything, right? That probably colored your...
Who, me?
Yeah, like, in college you're on all these organizations and
oh my God.
You sit in meetings and nothing ever gets accomplished. And so you get that sort of organizational fatigue.
I will say the irony of this for me is that I edited the entire episode last time.
Mm-hmm.
And so you woke up the next day, it was published overnight while you were sleeping, and you listened to it. I don't have the bandwidth for that. I almost never listen to our episodes afterward, but I guess you didn't have full trust in my editing.
I pretty much always listen.
And you said, I'm really glad you reined me back in at that spot because I don't like where that would have gone.
At a different spot.
A totally
different topic.
Yeah. And as it turned out, you didn't show me the same.
I tried. You can listen back to the tape. It's there.
So this is an example of where if we are wrong, if we've missed the mark, we absolutely will own it.
Yeah.
And we often talk about when people come to us in good faith. It's a wonderful moment. It happens so rarely these days. Because
it wasn't like, oh, I hate you so much, I'm leaving a 1-star review and this like vaguely constructive feedback.
Yeah.
You're free to disagree with us. And a lot of times if you come to us, we're not going to agree with your take, right? That doesn't mean like a retraction time. But this one actually made us think hard about how we covered it.
Actually, it did not make me think hard. I knew immediately. I knew in that moment felt like I had fucked up.
Guilt. Yes. But I'm not taking away the sleaze language that we used, right? There is a pervasive feeling of sleaze surrounding the U.S. Open.
Absolutely, that remains.
Yeah.
This is one of those moments where multiple things were true, and we did not take all of those things into consideration. Wow. We betrayed the ethos of the show, James.
Okay. Shortly after we released that episode, I woke up to my, weekly emails from the ITIA. It's usually a suspension of someone you've never heard of, some betting ring, or a low-level challenger ITF player getting busted for doping. This time it was Lleyton Hewitt suspended for 2 weeks for physically assaulting a 60-year-old doping chaperone. What? What a thing to wake up to.
Mind you, Lleyton Hewitt is one of those people in tennis whose reputation precedes him and then some. Like, this dude has a rap sheet publicly and privately like few in tennis.
What happened is there was an incident at the Davis Cup last November in 2024 where Hewitt was caught on video pushing a 60-year-old anti-doping chaperone. This happened. It was shown on video, but there were some disputes about the sequence of events that led up to it. Hewitt claimed self-defense, which was such an interesting thing to hear, given he's a former professional athlete. This was a 60-year-old volunteer who he allegedly shoved. He claims that the person bounced into him in his back pretty hard, and he kind of instinctively pushed out with his hand. And that was self-defense to him. Witness 2 is the victim, or the person who was shoved. That's how they were referred to in the reports. The witness said, quote, "Hewitt pushed me violently to the right without even asking what was my purpose." And another witness said, quote, "The push caused the chaperone to stumble and crash into a wall." Now, an independent tribunal was convened to look at all the evidence. What came out of it was they didn't buy the self-defense argument. They said the behavior was not reasonable and proportionate, which is what's required for a self-defense argument.
In their finding, they said, quote, "There was no apology or check on the well-being of the chaperone and a lack of remorse from Mr. Hewitt." The fallout from this is that Hewitt was given a 2-week suspension. However, this is the second high-profile, convenient suspension this year. However, the 2 weeks would be served after Davis Cup, so as to not interfere with his performance as Australia's Davis Cup coach.
Well, he said he was the captain, and the tribunal report said, well, we actually disputed that he's actually the captain, but whatever, we'll take him at his word. He literally provided his schedule over the coming months, and the tribunal picked truly the most convenient time to give the suspension. It avoided Davis Cup, and it avoided the upcoming Masters events.
So as to not be, quote, unduly punitive.
Right. It's perplexing. Now, I read both reports, so you don't have to. There was one about the evidence, and then the second one was discussing the sanction. So there's a lot of legal language thrown in, some precedent from previous integrity and anti-doping cases. I was interested in the evidence because it didn't make sense to me hearing this.
Is there video evidence that can often be pretty clear-cut?
Right.
Is there?
Well, yes. Oh, that was a question. Yes, there was.
It was a segue that you didn't quite pick up on.
Okay. Also, I'll tell you. This happened after Australia lost to Italy in Davis Cup last year. Italy went on to win in the finals. And the losing team knew that they were being selected for anti-doping. So Australia is going to be heading back to the locker room. They're disappointed. They lost. They got to go for anti-doping. So this chaperone and a number of people were walking with the team into the tunnel. There is video because witness 2's wife was taking video of it from the stands. So the video is quite far away, and it's the only video evidence they had, plus they did interviews and stuff. The victim appeared to collide with Hewitt in the tunnel as they were all walking off, and after that, Hewitt pushes witness 2 with his right hand. The question the tribunal was discussing was whether this was, quote, offensive conduct. And there's dispute over how hard the push was it necessary, all this stuff. So Hewitt has 4 lawyers on his side. Four. Combing through legal precedent, trying to claim self-defense, trying to say that Hewitt had no way of knowing this was an anti-doping official. The ITIA said that actually doesn't even matter.
Like, truly.
They said
if this were just a regular Joe off the street, it would have been fine.
Well, why are you pushing people? Right? So the ITIA was trying to hold that this is a strict liability offense, and therefore there's no need to show that Hewitt knew or could have reasonably known that this person was an official. Hewitt's side claimed that he has a, quote, heightened sensitivity regarding contact due to a condition or a procedure that was redacted. And an Australian surgeon testified that this was highly unusual, given how boisterous he was acting with the team in the week leading up to Davis Cup. Hewitt's surgeon and physio also gave evidence for his side, kind of disputing that.
I'm listening to you here, and I'm just thinking the cost involved over something so minor.
And the tribunal reports even said the amount of time and back and forth this has taken is pretty considerable because of kind of the heft on Lleyton Hewitt's side, right? The ability to hire lawyers and go back and forth about all this evidence. The ITIA was tough. They argued that Hewitt was lying and that his actions were the result of anger over the loss. They actually believed that witness 2 never even bounced into him, but the tribunal couldn't be reasonably satisfied that that was true.
They concluded by saying, the strong and forceful push, as the independent tribunal finds it was, appears in all the circumstances to be excessive or disproportionate, even taking into account all the circumstances that he believed at the time. The ITIA wanted a 4-week suspension, given, and probably especially because of his lack of remorse, quote, poor disciplinary record. Wow.
That they said it.
Including 5 prior incidents of offensive conduct towards tennis officials, position of authority, his, quote, obstructive and inappropriate conduct throughout the proceedings, and more.
Yeah, so those are all considered aggravating factors, and they can be a factor in the type of sanction that the tribunal decides on. Now, the tribunal actually didn't buy the last one. I bolded this because this was interesting, right? Because this is really a comment on his conduct and personality. Mm-hmm. Obstructive and inappropriate conduct throughout the proceedings.
They're really saying you are a nasty person.
They were saying he was behaving like an asshole during the proceedings. Now,
he was behaving like himself.
Apparently. Well, I mean, I don't call him at home, but that's what I've heard. The tribunal didn't dispute that that was true, but they did say that doesn't actually count as an aggravating factor, and it's not going to contribute to the sanction that we give.
They talk this big talk, yet they still only give 2 weeks. And a timing that wasn't punitive.
That's just the insult, right? That's such an insult, and it makes this, to me, such a charade. Because it actually only lines up to Davis Cup because Hewitt's side took so incredibly long and bothered them so much with requests for evidence and new legal arguments, and this thing goes on and on and on. So sometimes when players and defendants or, respondents complain, oh, this process took too long, it's actually their fault.
Well, as it turns out, Australia crashed out of Davis Cup while Alex de Minaur was helping Team World win Labour Cup.
Yeah, so...
He was MIA from Davis Cup where they fell 3-2 to Belgium.
They will not advance to the Davis Cup finals. The 8 teams are already chosen. In that tie versus Belgium, Raphael Collignon delivered 2 singles wins, and you may remember him from beating Casper Ruud at the US Open, and Zizou Bergs beat Jordan Thompson. So their 3 singles wins clinched it. Going back to the ITIA thing for a second, I thought it was interesting that there's no mandatory scale for offenses like this, so the tribunal could basically make up their own sanction. Hewitt was charged under this thing called engaging in offensive conduct toward a doping control official, and a lot of the arguments were determining whether or not it was indeed offensive conduct, by the definition. It took sort of a Clinton-esque feel in one of the reports where we did like a page on what the word toward means. I skipped through that.
A Clinton-esque.
Yeah. Like really legally parsing the meaning of a word. This time it was a preposition.
Sexual relations.
Yeah. That's more interesting than a page on a preposition, like towards. I think the ITIA and this tribunal knew that they had to do something, because you can't be out here pushing anti-doping officials. It just cannot stand. But there were mitigating factors. I don't necessarily agree with all of them, but some of them were the fact that the chaperone was not injured, that Hewitt was unaware he was even a doping official, which I think you should strike that one. Single incident rather than sustained conduct. It was like a very brief thing. So that's how they decided on the 2 weeks.
We need to move on because
Okay.
we've dedicated way too much time to this story.
It's just so bizarre.
Let's get into some of the results that have happened since we were last on air.
Last week, or 2 weeks ago at this point, in Sao Paulo, the young French player Sara Rakatomango Rajona of France defeated Janice Chen for her first career title. Sarah, or Tiazzo, is of Malagasy descent, which means from Madagascar. Thank you, WTA website, for the pronunciation of her name. I found out that she is a Rafa Arena stan. It's one of the points in her bio. So I am a fan, automatically.
In Guadalajara, the 500 event, 17-year-old Iva Jovic has hatched, and she indeed did snatch that title, beating Arango for the first WTA title of her career. She also won the Ilki 125 on grass this year.
Yeah, I actually had written down that this was her second career title, but I forgot that Ilkley is a 125. But I remember that name from our Wimbledon prep.
Mm-hmm. I haven't watched much of Jovic, but I've been aware of her name, even though she's just 17, for quite a while, because she's been getting those wild cards. She's been a chosen one, it seems. And she's all the way up to number 37 in the world.
Oh, wow.
36 last week. So rest assured that she will be a popular pick for breakout player next year. Mm-hmm. Because this kind of happens so quickly now that the expectation will be that she can even go further. Right. That's how these things work, right? Regrettably.
I mean, I would have picked Vicky Mboko as a breakout player for next year, but then she went and won a Masters title. Now she's on the cover of Rolling Stone Africa.
That was so good.
That's really
She
cool.
looked incredible on that.
At the Korea Open this week, Iga wins title number 25. It's a lot. Beating...
I was about to say, that's it?
Oh, really?
I have no concept of these things.
For her age, yeah, that's a lot.
It is. It really is. There's so many players that don't even have that in their entire career, and we think of them as really good players.
Yeah. She beat Alexandrova 1-6, 7-6, 7-5. You know, made a lot of errors, some untimely double faults.
Came back from 3-1 down in the final set.
She had a tough quarterfinals and semifinals, at least in theory. She had to beat both Krejcikova and Maya Joint in the same day, but...
James, Oh, you said in theory.
In theory.
Okay.
Not in practice, because you see the scores, right?
A bagel meted out to both Krejcikova and Maya Joins in the first sets, losing 5 games across 2 matches in one day.
Right. Barbie has given Iga trouble in the past, has wins over her, beat her in Ostrava in that famous final. It was not to be in Seoul this year. But I have so much faith in Barbie that late in the second set, I was like, oh, she's coming. Don't discount her. It's going to happen. She saves match points all the time.
She had in this tournament.
She did. She faced those 3 match points versus Raducanu in the second set of their match, and it was quite similar to that Townsend US Open match. She saved 1 match point earlier in the second set, which she did against Townsend, and then a few more in this long tiebreak. This one was 12-10. Then rattles off a 6-1 final set to beat Raducanu.
The men are in the finals of their tournaments this week. Well, last week is now this week. They're going to be playing their finals on a Tuesday. I guess they can do that now with the spreading of the Masters 1000s now, right?
Yeah.
In Chengdu, Lorenzo Musetti is going to play Alejandro Tabilo in the final. And in Hangzhou, Royer will play Bublik, who continues to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the men have been kind of all over the place. Post-US Open, there was, of course, Davis Cup. There was Laver Cup. And there was kind of a gap. There were no ATP tournaments last week.
I'm scrolling through the agenda here, and I'm seeing nothing about Laver Cup. Are we?
No.
We're just going to skip past that, right? Except to say that guy failed spectacularly at this tournament.
I mean...
Got whooped, and whooped again.
Why would you put him up in singles to try to tie the tie?
Against Taylor Fritz.
I don't get... I mean, Laver Cup doesn't happen in my world. To quote Laura Dern, not in my world. Not in the world I'm living in.
A lot of people were watching it. I saw it on my timeline.
I was surprised because I think I've created this bubble. My algorithm doesn't really get it. So I thought Laver Cup had kind of declined in popularity. I have no data for that. Mm-hmm. It certainly doesn't reach me. That's mostly by design.
Andre Agassi had this big week at Laver Cup, being this genius coach who is able to get players who are so stubborn to do things otherwise, to implement new strategies, to lead this team, this underdog team, to the win. He was high-fiving Riley Opelka, jumping to do it. He was doing the most. He was in the spotlight all week at Laver Cup. And
yes.
That's just the stuff that penetrated through to me. I wasn't even paying attention, right. Let alone the people who were watching it the entire time. He was everywhere.
That means Justin Gimelstob is also having a good week.
It does. And we also learned this week that they're going to be producing a TV tennis show. Like a scripted tennis TV show.
Yeah, for Prime, I think?
I don't even know. But one of the co-producers on that, or executive producers, is Gimelstob.
Obviously.
These two are tethered together. So whenever you see Agassi, just know that Gimelstob is in his camp. If not his manager or something. There's something going on there.
Guru, I don't know what it is. This is probably why I got a video on my TikTok algorithm of Kathy Griffin talking about when Andre Agassi visited the set of Suddenly Susan, and she said he was an asshole, that she hated him because he was just so rude to everybody.
Well, he didn't care for Brooke Shields being kissed or something in some scene.
Oh,
it was written about in his book or something. I read about that somewhere. He came to set and he didn't like the scene that Brooke had to perform, and he threw a fit backstage.
Yeah,
just wonderful stuff, really. Love to see it.
I'm sort of... I know that I was just talking shit, but I am pretty agnostic on Laver Cup. Like I said, it doesn't happen in my world. It's not part of it. If you like Laver Cup, that's awesome. Right? I'm not judging that at all. It's just not a thing for me. I'm not interested. So like when I hear about these tense final moments of Laver Cup, I'm sort of thinking, really? Like, it's really not that serious. Because what are the stakes?
What we were paying attention to was Billie Jean King Cup. It's gotten easier to say as the years have gone on.
Not for me.
Fed Cup was just so easy, and then it was the BJK Cup.
You better watch your K's.
Because we also have the Billie Jean King Trophy, right? At the year-end finals. That's still a thing, no?
Yes.
There's World Team Tennis. Billie is everywhere.
The Billie Jean King National Tennis Center. Love it. Love her down. But we got to get some new names out here. But they don't want to name things after Martina. They don't.
There's just no easy way to say BJK Cup without doing it really slowly.
Can we just call it like the Billie Cup? Billie Jean Cup?
That's better. Mm-hmm. Or the King Cup.
Okay, yeah. King Billy. Yes, like King B.
Italy.
Italia.
Errani. Tortellini.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's part of the story,
Italy wins their 6th King Cup, all since 2006. And Sister Sarah, as I think Brad Gilbert calls her, has been part of 5 of those winning teams. They beat the USA in the final. The US hasn't been in the final since 2018, and their last win was 2017. Italy now has the 4th most titles in Fed Cup / King Cup history, breaking a tie with Russia and Spain. Only Australia, Czech Republic, and USA have more overall wins. Australia 7, Czech Republic 11, and the United States 18.
And for Czech Republic, that includes the period when they were Czechoslovakia. So as you said, in the final, it's best of 3 matches, right? It's different than it used to be. And they're also playing the quarterfinals, the semis, and the final all in one weekend, like they do with Davis Cup, but Davis Cup is much later in the season. In the final, Cocciaretto beat Navarro 6-4, 6-4. Paolini packed up Pegula 6-4, 6-2. This was her very first win over Jessie in 6 meetings, and she brings out her best in a team competition as usual. So there was no need for a deciding doubles match. The tie was over at 2-0. Errani and Paolini have won the deciding rubber a number of times, but it wasn't needed this time. My quiz question for you, and it is a hard one. Which player has the most Fed Cup match wins in history? And I can give you hints if you don't want to guess right now.
The most Fed Cup match wins in history. Kvitova?
No. Do you want me to give you a hint?
Sure.
It's a player you like.
Oh, Arantxa.
How'd you get that so fast?
Well, because I see here that Spain was one of the teams
they
that
won
have
5
the most
times.
titles.
Wow, you just got that right
I
away.
remember Arantxa was all over that shit growing up.
Great Britain has won 0.
That's not surprising.
To me, it was surprising because when you look through the Davis Cup history in the early 20th century, it was really the tennis superpowers trading titles, right? So Great Britain won a bunch, Australia, USA, France.
But who were those
all the slam nations won.
Virginia Wade and who else?
I don't know. Now, don't quiz me on Great Britain players from the 70s. I was just surprised they didn't snag one, say, in the 1960s. Mm-hmm. In the semifinals, it was Italy versus Ukraine. This was an example of where Errani and Paolini had to break the tie for Italy because they split the singles matches. Kostyuk beating Cocciaretto and Paolini beating Svitolina. Team USA played Great Britain in the semifinals, speak of the devil. Both Navarro and Pegula had to rally from a set down to get those singles wins. And that's that. Italy is such a powerhouse in this tournament. They could easily tie Australia with 7 wins next year. Like, this team is incredible together.
After we released our last episode, we saw Taylor Townsend making the media rounds outside of the major stuff. We saw her on morning TV, but then we started to see her on podcasts. She was doing black media.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think you said it on the last episode. When a black American player has a big result, they often cross over in a massive way.
Yeah.
In a way that another American might not.
Yeah. And so we saw her give more insights into herself and her career on those podcasts than she would say on Good Morning America.
Right.
It was much more interesting. And I thought to myself, wow, look at her having this moment. Good for her. And then the bag was fumbled so badly. It truly was incredible. Quite literally, everything she could have been accused of by Ostapenko in that match, she went to go give her haters some evidence.
Oh, no. Don't do that.
I'm saying that's what the haters were saying after this happened. Those are not my words.
Mm-hmm. It was such an unforced error, as we say in tennis, such a cell-phone, unprovoked.
Ostapenko calls her classless, uneducated. She goes to China and starts complaining and mocking and ridiculing the food.
We've been here so many times, right? She does a number of Instagram stories about the food. She says, "What the hell? Turtle and bullfrog is wild. These people are literally killing frogs, bullfrogs. Aren't those the ones that give you warts and boils and stuff?" And, I have never lived this phenomenon, right? But so many immigrant kids bring their food to school and get made fun of, right? So many little kids have trauma from this in school.
You mean your little cheese sticks?
Yeah,
They weren't mocked with the red
right.
stick?
My people's food.
What are those called
Processed
again?
food. Handy snacks.
Handy snacks?
Yeah. Maybe if it was a good week, we splurged and got a Lunchable. A Lunchable was a real status symbol in my school. But you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Especially Asian cultures. Constantly getting made fun of for their food.
It's completely ignorant.
Yes.
You could have easily taken to the internet, to Google. The impulse to be taken aback by foods that you find strange, it's not weird.
Right,
I feel like
you don't have to eat it.
It's a typical, or dare I even say normal reaction. We've all had reactions like that to food in the past, based on our age and maturity level. But you do that shit in private. You don't go make a whole multiple Instagram posts and stories about it. Saying it with your chest like that, that's crazy.
And you know me, I'm a picky eater. You tell everybody we meet that. It's embarrassing. Thank you. But, for example, I don't really like fermented foods, right? So I'm not a huge fan of kimchi. It's just the fermented cabbage thing I don't like. But I am embarrassed by that. I try to keep it on the low because I don't want people to think that I'm racist. Right? It's not that. It's not gross. It's just I don't like it personally. So it's okay if you don't want to eat sea cucumber. That's perfectly fine if you privately think it's gross. But to share this and to make fun of it, it's just mean. It's just really unkind and rude.
It wasn't just one post either. It went on. It just kept going.
Why are there multiple? And the thing is, these players are well traveled. She's been to China before. We're going into an entire stretch of WTA Asia that they're still trying to build. Fans are really excited. It was just such a weird impulse to do that.
If this really isn't for you, that you're not going to be able to eat this, speak to the WTA people on site and say, hey, I need to be able to eat such and such. Can you hook me up with something?
Right.
Do it privately behind the scenes. But to then go on social media and do this, it's in such bad taste. And it's mocking. You're mocking a culture. To her credit, she must have gone to bed that night and woke up very early the next morning to a lot of notifications because the apology was swift and without condition. She didn't say specifically what she was apologizing for, but she said there's no excuse for what I did.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was... I don't know if she got advice or whatever, but it was a very clear and unconditional apology. She said, I'm very privileged to do what I do, to be able to travel and experience all these cultures. And she said, quote, the things that I said were not representative of that at all, and I just truly wanted to apologize. There is no excuse. There are no words. For me, I will be better. And that's kind of the only thing you want from an apology. There was no explanation of why she did what she did. It was, I will do better.
The timing of it was just so crazy. After having gone through what she went through so publicly with Ostapenko, to then now do this. It's difficult to believe.
I mean, this was food for the haters, right? This was so perfectly timed for them.
Penko was right.
That's not how this works. Right?
Spoiler.
Retroactively right?
They were both wrong.
Right. Penko was still wrong in the moment, still rude, still uneducated.
And then people also brought up this recent story where Taylor Townsend was quoted.
Oh, not just quoted. It was like a whole interview with Clay.
Yeah.
Like the online tennis magazine Clay.
If you read it, you would swear she was being paid by the Saudi government.
This better have been paid PR. Otherwise, she's getting screwed.
She said, quote, "I really hope that people can unsubscribe to the thoughts that women are treated poorly there because they are not." Well, that's it. Taylor's seen it. She did her investigating. She did a Felix gay player survey investigation. And she's come back to tell us that the women are not treated poorly in the Middle East.
In Saudi Arabia, specifically. This was from the WTA finals in Riyadh.
She goes on to say that her experience there was, quote, "phenomenal." And that, quote, "I didn't experience or witness anything negative, not even one time."
I, for one, am shocked.
Again.
That they had a great experience.
Again, the internet is right there.
Yeah, and this was a very important sporting event. Saudi Arabia was trying to get women's sports to come. Do you think they would have given them a bad experience? Do you think that would have even been remotely possible, given the money at stake? She
made mention of how the WTA Maternity Fund, which is being funded by PIF, is a great thing and further evidence of how the WTA's involvement and presence in Riyadh, that the continued and ever-increasing presence of the WTA in the Middle East is wonderful. It's a great thing, and that was further evidence of it.
The maternity leave policy is a great thing.
It is.
Undoubtedly. I genuinely hope she got paid for that, because that was clearly just PR. But this was a while ago. Like, this was a few months ago, and we didn't cover it at the time. Now I feel like, oh, maybe we should have covered it. But a lot of people brought it up and saying, oh, this is who she is, she's ignorant or whatever.
It was on our agenda a couple times. It just didn't quite make it.
Yeah. I would just say, like, to the Penko defender, like, you're allowed to be a fan of Ostapenko, right? You're allowed to be a fan of people who make mistakes like that. But don't say that that was cool now that Taylor made an oopsie. Like, that doesn't, two wrongs don't make a right, babe. You learned that in kindergarten.
While the King Cup was happening, Davis Cup was happening as well. Davis Cup, King Cup, and Laver Cup. All the cups.
Yeah, within a 2-week span.
Yeah.
The USA will not make the final 8 in Davis Cup. They did play Rajiv Ram in doubles, but the team still lost. Rajiv won. But I think for a lot of people, the instinct was to say, oh, they finally played Ram in doubles after that whole Marty Fish fiasco. But the truth is, and this was pointed out in John Wertheim's mailbag by Hanlon Walsh, that Ram has actually played 15 Davis Cup matches since 2021. And he's won 12 of those 15. He's traveled all over the world for these away ties. And it was kind of nice to see that highlighted, given that he's remembered by a lot of fans for being the one who wasn't picked.
He's also remembered by a lot of fans for the one who cost Venus Williams a gold medal.
Every time we bring... You'll never get over it. Apparently she remembers it too.
No, but I mean, this is also useful to highlight, to double down on the bullshit, on highlighting the bullshit, that it was completely ludicrous that he wasn't picked.
Yes.
In that tie. Ridiculous.
Yes, because he's been a reliable winning presence on the team since 2021. The Marty Fish incident happened at the end of 2023. By the way, congratulations to John Wertheim. He won an Excellence in Journalism Award from the NLGJA, which is now called the Association of LGBTQ plus Journalists. This was for the 60-minute story he did on Daria Kasatkina, which was called The World's Bravest Tennis Player. You can watch pieces of it online. I definitely encourage you to watch that.
The US will not be winning Davis Cup this year.
Correct.
They lose to Czechia 3-2. All 3 wins for Czechia coming in singles. Tiafoe lost terribly in both singles matches, in straight sets to Menchik and Lehechka. And Fritz lost in 3 sets to Lehechka after beating Menchik.
Yeah, Taylor had a great week in Laver Cup, but had that loss to Lehechka in Davis Cup. The choice to play Francis in singles, not surprising given his rank, but it wasn't happening. The form is just not there right now. Elsewhere in Davis Cup, Canada is a recent winner, but they have been relegated to World Group 1 because of a loss to Hungary earlier this year. So by luck of the draw, they drew Israel to host Israel in a World Group 1 tie in Halifax, Nova Scotia. No country wanted this, right? No country wanted the smoke. There have been a lot of calls recently increasing to exclude Israel from things like Eurovision, from Italian football, from other sporting events. And this is something that really hasn't materialized in tennis very much.
A number of organizations and professors wrote an open letter to Tennis Canada asking them to cancel the Davis Cup tie. Protests had been planned in Halifax. Picketing and leafleting had already started. This is not a new phenomenon in Canada. Certainly not in Toronto. Any public space where there's a lot of people, you have folks handing out leaflets.
Right.
Anytime you're in Kensington Market, in Toronto, you will be handed a leaflet letting you know which companies to boycott because of their support for Israel.
Yes. And there have been peaceful Free Palestine protests, many, many weekends in a row since the war started.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And then this happened at Wimbledon. We saw it at Wimbledon outside the gates.
The top Canadian players were asked, they dodged the question, and it was ultimately easy for them to dodge because they didn't play, right? Dennis, Felix did not play in this tie. Dennis and Felix were getting married.
The solution for Tennis Canada was to hold this Davis Cup tie behind closed doors with no spectators, citing, quote, safety concerns.
Yeah, it was just a disappointing decision. I don't know what the safety concerns were, if they had intelligence behind the scenes that we didn't know about, because this feels like a very drastic step. And it's also a big loss of revenue for Tennis Canada, right? Those tickets they would have sold, they're not making money from those.
The ITF, who oversees Davis Cup, they claimed that they couldn't exclude Israel because the IOC had not acted. The IOC has not taken a stance on Israel's participation in these global events.
Right. The tennis world's action on Russian and Belarusian players were prompted because the IOC was the first to act. Basically, the ITF is not going to act alone here. So Russian and Belarusian players have been excluded from all team competitions since the war in Ukraine started. And this is common, but typically you see it enacted against non-Western nations. Mm-hmm. Right? We've seen this, of course, like South Africa during apartheid in the 80s, excluded from team competitions. There was a boycott. But when NATO nations are at war, their players are typically not touched. And Israel is obviously a very close and strategic ally of the United States.
The U.S. is currently engaged in extralegal killings in Caribbean waters. Multiple.
Right.
We've said it multiple times on this show over the years. Most recently with the big story of the Russian and Belarusian players having their flags taken away from their name, from being banned from Wimbledon. It's a very selective situation.
Yeah.
Only certain countries are punished for these things. Because the things that Russia is accused of, that Belarus is accused of, the US do a lot of those things as well. But that would never even enter into the public discourse as to whether American players should be banned from participating in global events.
Meanwhile, Israel has bombed Iran, Qatar recently, and the absolute disaster that's happening in Gaza. It's becoming, it seems, a little more safe for celebrities and big organizations to speak out about this, because for most of these past 2 years, it's been, you're really risking your career, right? Mm-hmm. We've seen movie stars blacklisted, fired from their franchises.
I'm sure some listeners of this episode might say the same thing about us.
Probably. But the calls to ban Israeli athletes from group competitions have been rising. FIFA has been sitting on this request from the Palestinian Football Association for over a year, and the request was to adopt sanctions on Israel due to international law violations. And FIFA has kind of kicked this around, and they said they have legal experts looking into it, but so far they haven't held a vote.
It'll be interesting with the World Cup coming next year, with other huge global events on the horizon. Will federations from other countries decide to withdraw their athletes' participation in protest? Because we've seen that at certain points in history before.
Yeah.
IOC President Thomas Bach said last year, quote, "We are not in the political business. We are there to accomplish our mission to get the athletes together." That's it. That's it, folks.
From the IOC is laughable.
We are not in the political business. Nothing to see
There's
here.
no politics in sports, except Russia and Belarus, you're banned.
Don't look to us. Look over there.
Right. Nothing political about the Olympics. Nothing.
For me, the Canadian Tennis Federation looks pretty feckless here by the way they handle this situation. Because you're not taking a stand in any sense. You're just silencing people.
Given the options, I would have preferred they just held the tie as it was intended to and dealt with the consequences, right? This is a supposedly free country where people are free to speak their minds. There are going to be protesters on both sides. Was there a genuine security threat? I don't know. I can't say that for sure, but this had the effect of silencing everybody and forcing the athletes to compete with no fans.
Which to me is secondary. Tertiary.
Yeah,
You
sure.
know,
I mean, what's really crazy is that Canada has been relegated to this. But Canada has been very successful in team events over the past few years.
We mentioned earlier that Felix and Dennis both got married. Congrats to Dennis and Miriam Bjorklund on their wedding. That was 10 days ago.
No, I think it was Friday, wasn't it?
Was it?
And then Felix got married the same weekend.
Oh, it was the same weekend.
I think so. He and his now wife, Nina Gaibi, got married in Marrakech, Morocco. There were some Canadian tennis players there. Vasek and Gabriel were there in attendance. Nina is, many of you may know this already, she is Ayla Tomlanovich's cousin. She's half Croatian and half Moroccan. She's a professional equestrian. It's pretty cool, huh?
Casper is going to be a dad. He and his fiance are expecting a child. Mm-hmm. This is a time of year where we get a lot of tennis player personal news.
Yes. You know, he said he skipped Wimbledon to basically conceive.
He was making a joke, but it was like, okay, Casper, it's a little bit raunchy here. Though it does seem that he'd be the type of person to schedule that.
Yes, definitely. Feels very Scandinavian, you know?
You have here that Daria Saville and Luke Saville are...
They're expecting as well. Or
so
she's expecting.
Dasha is pregnant?
Yeah, that's what she said.
I completely missed that.
Yeah, a lot of personal news this week.
We bumped this from the last episode.
Like the last 3 episodes.
The tagline here on the agenda is, what the fuck is this Kyrgios-Sabalenka bullshit?
Well, I'll tell you, since you asked. Discussions have taken place for a match in Hong Kong in January between Nick and Errani. No date or venue have been announced or decided yet, but apparently they're trying to do this like weird retread of the Battle of the Sexes.
Mm-hmm. There have been a few over the years.
Yeah.
There was Navratilova, Jimmy Connors in the early 90s.
Really?
There was, yes.
Oh, we might have to do a deep dive into that one. That's new. I did not know that.
Yeah, but Jimmy only got 1 serve. Martina got 2.
Okay.
I think it may have been played at MSG. And it was best of 5 sets, I want to say.
Those were the MSG days.
Yeah.
Actually, another one, remember a low-ranked male player challenged Venus and Serena when they were like teenagers to play. And he beat them, of course. But generally, it's an embarrassing exercise.
Yeah.
Right? We know that men and women play differently. low-ranked male players are going to beat the top-ranked women. That's just how it is.
Big whoop that a player with a serve like Riley Apelko or Nick Kyrgios would not be broken by a woman. Shocking stuff.
And the thing is, I don't even know that it's the serve in most cases, right? Women are generally incredible returners of men's serves. It's like everything else.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's part of...
Yeah. It's the sum of its parts, right?
Yeah.
And let's not even go there with trans athletes. That's not what this is about.
The mastermind of this, you may have guessed it, Stuart Duguid. Is that how you pronounce his name?
I think it's Duguid.
Duguid?
Something like that. That's what I've heard.
Stuart Duguid, who, of course, is Naomi Osaka's agent. He is... What is their company called?
Now he's Naomi's partner in owning Evolve, the sports agency.
So, agent, make me rich, now co-owner of Evolve. Sabalenka is part of that setup, as is Kyrgios.
Yes.
And this is why this is coming to be, potentially.
Yeah. So, allegedly, Stewart is the mastermind behind all this, according to the BBC. And so during the US Open, like during and before, you had a few shots fired back and forth, I guess trying to drum up interest in this supposed event, this tentative event.
Kyrgios said, quote, "She's not going to beat me. Do you think I have to try 100%? He was being interviewed by... Who was it?
It was, oh God. It wasn't Sam Groth, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was a current player.
Oh, it was on some podcast.
Of course, he's being glib about this. I don't even have to try. I could just show up and beat her. I don't even have to make an effort, kind of thing.
It's the same thing. Like he does this all the time with women's sports. When he played mixed doubles with Serena, he said, Why is she trying to get into my section of the court? I'm better than her." It's like, babe, in no universe are you better than her. You may be stronger just by the accident of biology.
He is willingly, gleefully assuming the role of Bobby Riggs here.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you've known anything about the second Battle of the Sexes, the first one was when Margaret Court got her ass whooped by Bobby Riggs.
It shouldn't have.
It was the lead up to this event that was really annoying because of Bobby Riggs.
The 1973. Yeah. But it was all orchestrated, right? Billy was in on the joke.
Yes. Right, but that plays differently in 2025
totally.
Than it did 52 years ago.
Back then he's playing Archie Bunker. He's playing the heel. She was part of it. This was literally activism as theater. And people have different views of how it came off, and some people don't feel like it's particularly like liberationist. But the Battle of the Sexes, the OG version, was politics.
What we're seeing here is that Nick Kyrgios clearly will dine out for the rest of his life on his quote-unquote potential. If I were to have given a damn, if I were to have tried, I could have done X, Y, and Z.
This is going to be it. For the rest of his broadcast career or podcast career, it's if.
And as we know, that doesn't exist. But sadly, for now, it is propping him up.
Right. So Sabalenka fires back, and I imagine this is all orchestrated by the agency they're both part of. She says, "I genuinely think that I'm going to win, and I'll definitely go out there and try my best to kick his ass." And about the Kyrgios comments, this is rage bait, right? Is it? Like, is it rage bait PR? It's trying to drum up interest in this thing? Is this
from a different person?
Is it gonna happen? Is it actually gonna happen?
But from a different person, I could say it's rage bait. But from him, I generally believe he thinks that.
Well, and he very well will probably beat her. But what does that mean? Like, as with the original Battle of the Sexes, it doesn't mean that women's tennis doesn't have value. If Billie Jean had lost that because of the stakes, it would have been a disaster, right? Because women's tennis was fighting for its ability to exist. And they were fighting for equal pay. They were fighting to have a professional tour.
Yeah.
In this day and age, women's tennis doesn't need to prove anything. Sabalenka doesn't need to prove she can beat men. She doesn't play men. She plays women.
Women's tennis doesn't need exposure from this.
No.
Billie Jean beating Bobby Riggs would have been a great boon to women's tennis then. Sabalenka beating Nick Kyrgios in this scenario, what is it going to do? It doesn't prove anything.
And her losing to him, what does that do? What does that do for her? What it does for her is it makes her a joke for even deciding to participate in something like this. This is an agency. So Sabalenka very publicly flamed IMG when she left them. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty unusual, actually. She said, I don't think IMG was doing anything for me. They weren't getting it. Now, I think what she's not getting is that she's from Belarus. First of all, nobody wants to touch this country. What are you bringing to the table? Like, you've stepped in shit many, many times already. What was IMG supposed to do?
Well, she won the US Open and she made all the media rounds and went on a charm offensive.
Yes, and on merit, based on her accomplishments, she should be the highest earning player in women's tennis off the court. So Evolve is where she thinks she can do it. Now, if Evolve's great idea is to plan this battle of the sexes with the most famous heel of his generation, who's basically an inactive player, somebody who talks shit about women's tennis constantly, what is this doing for her? Why is she with Evolve? How is this making her more marketable? To me, it's an embarrassment.
Maybe it's just about the money.
What money?
I don't know. Maybe
who's paying for this?
Maybe there will be investors in making this a big spectacle. I don't know. Maybe it'll be picked up by Netflix.
Like, where is the money? This, to me, this sounds like the Grand Slam track. It sounds like the enhanced games. Where is the money coming from?
The bottom line is we don't need it. The only person who benefits from this is Nick Kyrgios.
Exactly.
Because whichever way it plays out, he'll find a way to spin it to his advantage, and he'll suck up the air even more.
Precisely. Him being a client of Evolve is toxic for the other people in the agency. We've seen it with Naomi already. That's her fault. But now we're going to see it with Arena.
That brings us to the end of episode 395. We're hurtling towards 400. Are we going to do anything special?
Well, I'll tell you. I've been wanting to do a reprise of the hottest ATP players. I don't think we've touched that in 8-9 years.
We did one?
Yeah, totally. We did like thirst episodes or whatever. And then, people got all on the objectification of men thing, and I think we stepped away from it.
Oh, but I don't think we did an entire episode.
Respectability or something. No, not an entire episode. But
I know you think that if those American trees with a microphone can be out here talking about who's hot and who's not on the ATP tour, then yes, we should be able to do it.
Well, that's what this is. Not that we can do whatever we want. But if the Paola podcast full of straight men has a ranking system, a seeded tournament of the hottest guys, come on. Like, you need to hear about this from people who know ball.
No, I thought that was going somewhere else.
We know ball.
There's a missing letter there that could have taken it in a totally different direction.
Think of the metaphor however you'd like, but we're doing it for the love of the game.
Oh, we are?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Take all the sports metaphors you can think of.
So you're saying that's going to be episode 400?
No, I'm saying people who actually have a horse in the race should be ranking the hottest men. Straight men, you can rely on them to pick Ryan Reynolds and Brad Pitt. They're picking men they want to be, not men they want to be with. All right?
You heard it here first, yes, folks.
Yes. So I would like to... I already have a list going.
I know you do.
I don't know if you want to participate. Maybe it'll just be a solo. It'll just be me. But
I'll have to do some combing through the rankings, do some research. I don't think...
Some Instagram research.
We should be introducing people to new people as well. Say, well, you haven't heard about this.
Well, that's part of it.
This player ranked 222, but mercy.
Well, because the straight guys pick people who have been accepted widely as safely attractive, right? You're not shocking anybody by picking Grigor Dimitrov. And he will be picked by us as well. That's a universal pick. But, as I said, you have to know ball.
Okay, this is more to edit. So, my name is Jonathan.
You're not cutting it off now, are you?
I am, yeah.
Oh,
this is the end of the episode.
Okay.
You just did 3 minutes on promoting this
You asked what was coming.
thirst episode. My name is Jonathan. You can find me on Blue Sky at Tennis John.
I'm James at ElliotJMR.
2 L's, 2 T's. Everything Body Serve related can be found at linktree.com/thebodyserve. Oh, shout out to the GOAT. Called time on her career at the World Championships.
Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce.
Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce finishing with a 4x100 meter silver medal as she started in 2007 with a 4x100 meter silver medal. It's been an absolute joy and privilege to be a fan of this lady. So many moments over the years, and wow, what a career.
17 World Championship medals, 5 golds in the 100 meter, our all-time record, doubled in the 100 meter,
Mommy Rocket.
repeated in 08 and 12 in the Olympics.
Came back from having her baby boy to win, 2 more World Championships.
I believe the most sub 10-7 times in history, still.
To run the fastest times of her career.
Incredible. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce is part of the Usain Bolt generation, exploded at the same time at the Beijing Olympics, and just never got the level of fame that Usain got, but those two are their contemporaries. They are 2 of the greatest athletes of the century.
Thanks for listening.
Till next time.
Thank you very much.